Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining, everybody in person as well as online. Thank you all for coming as well and taking the time. I think we are very timely with our topic today, and as we've heard before, discussions always center around the retail digital euro. So everybody talks about what we use in everyday payments at POS and P2P. But if we really want to look at it holistically, we need to consider the wholesale aspect of this as well, which is what we're here for now. And we're going to discuss in length, so please feel free to ask questions online or in person as well. I think that, we'll get to it, but the ECB's recent announcement on deploying DLT for wholesale CBDC will be very interesting to assess. Before getting there, there's been quite the road, I guess, that you've all come along. So we'll start with a little bit of a technical exploration, the experiments that have been done, dive into a bit of a market side, and then go to the DLT-based Eurosystem announcement. So if you would, all of you don't mind introducing yourselves for a second, I'll leave that to you.
I start. My name is Philipp Köhler-Brinkmann from KPMG. I'm Senior Manager of the DLT practice here in Germany.
Holger Neuhaus. I'm Head of Market Innovation and Integration at the ECB. So I've chaired, for example, our market contact group actually on the topic of the wholesale work, and also coordinated the work in the Eurosystem on this.
Maximilian Pfeifer. I'm from Oesterreichische Nationalbank Treasury. There, I started my journey in the crypto world. Then I went to some commercial banks in Austria, and now I'm a central banker. So I hope I don't have the stigma attached to me that I'm a conservative central banker when I will talk about stablecoins later and other stuff.
Johannes Duong, my name, and also from Austrian Central Bank and from the Treasury back office, and I'm responsible for cash management and also for the fintech projects like our Delphi project.
Adeline Bachellerie from Banque de France. So I'm Deputy Director of Innovation and Financial Market Infrastructures, in charge in particular of the tokenization aspects and CBDCs.
Thank you. And if you don't mind, Adeline, I would like to actually start with you, because like I said, there's been a lot of exploratory work going on for the last few years, and the Banque de France is quite advanced in their work, we can say that, I think. So if you don't mind starting us off.
So yes, we have been working with market players for more than 5 years now. And it's quite important actually to remember maybe why we started this work. So when market players came to see us, they explained that they wanted to explore the opportunities offered by new technologies. In particular, they wanted to tackle the complexity of financial markets and fragmentation. And they wanted, for instance, to offer automation to financial assets that did not benefit yet from delivery versus payment. And they would like to better integrate this small market segment with their system, with their traditional systems in the banks. And so this is maybe the first key point, is that they don't want to work with a big bang approach. They wanted to integrate this complexity and how to tackle it in their current systems, as they also recognize the efficiency of our payment systems. So this is the first key point. The second one is that they were exploring the security leg in particular, but they came to see us to ask for the cash leg, meaning that they wanted to use central bank money to settle their financial securities. And so, of course, we can agree with that. And this is a first lesson before starting the experiments. They wanted to use central bank money, in particular in the form of tokens on DLT. So that's why we have started our work. And so, as you know, we tested last year within the Eurosystem program lots of use cases, and it was quite important for us to to be integrated in this Eurosystem program to test more use cases. Of course, issuance of securities, redemption, corporate actions, but also clearing. And it was, there is also another important point that, of course, some market players do not have access to central bank money. And it was important for us to work on the combination between central bank money and commercial bank money with new technologies and how we could better combine them. All of our work, our approach actually is in line with our mandate of financial stability, and it's crucial for us we are in charge of the smooth functioning of payment system, and that's why it was important for us to work on these new technologies.
I think it's quite interesting to see that this stemmed from demand from the market, right? Because oftentimes CBDC is seen as a threat to the market and competition with the market, but really it is a collaboration, like you say. You work closely with market participants. So do you in Austria, I believe. So maybe if you want to take it on and share your experiments.
Thank you. So we also in the ONB, I think 5 years ago, we had created an innovation lab in our house. And our directors, they asked all the departments to hand in innovation ideas. So, and we are thinking from Treasury side, what could be interesting, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and we finally say, okay, the DLT blockchain could be very interesting and it could disrupt our core business, is the settlement. Because we work every day on settlement, cash management with SWIFT and reconciliation and all this stuff, and the DLT could disrupt all this process and reduce intermediaries, reducing costs. I think everyone here sitting here knows that the efficiency of using DLT to reduce intermediaries and all this stuff. So when we start to create our own platform with our IT, and nearly I think same time with Banque de France, and we start the communication and exchange with Banque de France, and yeah, and together with, we have some stakeholders, some commercial banks, and also the Austrian Treasury is on board in our stakeholder round. And then the exploratory work come across, and we also joined it with our own created market DLT for an experiment. And maybe it's important to point out there is between trials and experiment. Trial is with real money transactions, and the experiment is only mock transactions. It's more focusing on the technical point of view. And this is what we did, is experiment together with Banque de France system.
I think, like you say, there is an important difference here, experiments versus trials, and going from theory to practice, if you will, and merging these two worlds, which is, I think, exactly what you also, Philipp, you say in your white paper with KPMG. You published this on DLT-based capital markets. You need actually practical solutions and to be able to scale them up and to do so fast. So if you don't mind on that basis to share some insights from the practice side.
Sure, my pleasure. Yes, KfW has issued last year 2 blockchain-based bonds. So the second one also used the trigger solution from Bundesbank, and we observed the issuance and evaluated the issuance process and also the setup with all participants of the issuance. We had major participants involved, banks, asset manager, FMIs, custodians. So it worked. So this is it worked very well. So we had an DVP without a central securities depository, and the Electronic Security Act worked as a legal framework. It provides a secure framework for the issuance, and of course there were some details concerning what are the legal basis, what needs to be amended concerning the contract. Those are details, technical details. What we want and what we want for the future is a compatibility with DLT-based central bank money.
So I think we're going on to Holger. And if you don't mind now, in all of this context, seeing central banks exploring this, the market reacting to it, now we'll get to your recent announcement at the ECB.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Just to put this in context, actually, it's not just the market reacting to this. Actually, we had reached out some years ago, actually, to the market 3 years ago, roughly 3.5, and asked questions about, and then also after having received feedback in a structured questionnaire, there was also the market saying we would like to go ahead, and central bank money is one of the enablers of innovation. So now who acted, who reacted is an issue. So we then actually took this up and then actually set up these trials and experiments. So from that point of view, it was really public and private sector working very well together, I would say. And that is also one of the points I come to, that actually it was also not us prescribing the use cases, but they revealed a lot. It is just us giving a framework, and sometimes the difference between actual transactions and experiments was also because of our choice, because for some things it was easier to set up a framework for doing actual work, and for sometimes some legal points, operational points were not ready yet to do that. So we actually said only for securities use cases there are trials. For the others, it had to be experiments. But the big point is, where do we come from? So for us, I mean, also to understand the decisions that I'm just going to recall is, we find it important that central bank money is being used and that the two-tier financial system, also with private monies, is working. So we have actually worked on that over decades. And we would like to maintain that. And that's why in 2023, our press release, when we said that we will do these trials and experiments, it was part of our approach that we want that central bank money is being used for the wholesale market. And if the market is then going or looking into a new technology, we have to and want to look at, do we provide central bank money in a form that is relevant for the market? So it's basically to keep the same, one has to change things. That's, I think, the idea. Another objective that we have in mind is, when it comes to the securities and capital market, is of course that actually whatever we do, it should improve the situation compared to have it as we have it now, because we want to go for a capital market union or saving and investments union. So that is for us important also in whatever step we are taking. And that's where the trials, experiments helped us to really see, okay, what is the case? Because it is not an issue about how to make the settlement, etc., more efficient. It was also said at earlier panels that, I mean, a centralized system that is specially built for this is hard to beat. But what we saw in the trials and the experiments is that the market participants, yes, of course, they did want to have a settlement in central bank money, but the use cases were much broader. It was about the value chain, about making transactions across the ecosystem, so that actually the core of the issue is that it's not about specific processes, specific parts, it's about, if I may say so, putting the whole ecosystem to work on one shared and distributed database so that everybody knows what they can do at that moment and be able to react very quickly. And that is where the architecture and the promise of the DLT is. So it's not on a specific part, it is looking at the ecosystem. And that is a big promise. On which actually is not just a technical point, and that's where also the market participants said, okay, we would like to go ahead, but what will you do now? And how do you provide central bank money? Tell us early, so that we also know what to invest in, and also tell us if what you will provide. If you want to do something soon, tell us whether that is the step that you're doing or whether it's part of more. And that's where we came actually pretty quickly after the trials out. So in end November we closed, and our governing council decided to announce in February early in line with what the market demand was to say what our steps are. And that is, one, we will provide actually settlement of DLT-related transactions in the short term, whatever the short term means, so that that will have to be specified, but soon. And the second is that that is not the end of the story, because we understood it is about providing something meaningful for the ecosystem and helping the ecosystem to set itself up. So there's also a second track, which is then on how to do that. Because it is not just a central bank that can do something, because the market has to use it, and vice versa. So that's also the important part. It's about the whole financial, it's the securities, but it's also the payments system and that whole ecosystem where this is together. So that's where we have to work on together. I stop here, happy to explain more in detail.
I think Adeline also said that, right? It's not the securities necessarily only, we're looking at a bigger picture here. We're not just looking at one aspect, we're looking at all of them. I think it's quite important also to highlight, like you say, we have two tracks here. We've heard it before today for the sake of completeness, I guess. We have track 1 and track 2 at the ECB happening at the Eurosystem. Track 1 is working on an interim solution where the Bundesbank's trigger solution is being deployed, versus track 2 is working on a longer term solution. I think it's important, we heard it, sorry, please.
No, just one thing, and it's not only that, so it's also that on the second part of the financial system, the two-tier financial system, so with actually also with private monies. Because not everybody, I mean, we could grant already now access to central bank money more broadly. We don't do for reasons. And that will also be there in the future. So the central bank money cannot be there for everybody. But then it's important that, for example, the clients of the banks who have access to central bank money can also use that. And if the market is going to DLT, then how is this being provided? What are the private solutions? That always is also an important part of the story. Really, just to say, because they were early in the morning, there were the discussions. Is central bank money saving everything and doing it? No, it will not. It's the ecosystem. It's really the full system. Yeah.
It's a coexistence, right? Like you say, nobody's supposed to be crowded out of a market. We're just trying to enhance the system as it is. But the system as it is perhaps has some limitations. So if anybody of you wants to jump in, I think the trigger solution is meant to connect to existing systems, and the long-term solution is meant to perhaps go beyond. So where are currently some limitations you might see that could use some improvement in the longer term, or could go beyond existing structures in the longer term?
One point is, it was good we could do also trials, so actual transactions, because there are national laws that actually allowed it. So there were early adoptions of this law, and that was good. The problem is we have national laws, and they are specified. They are not talking to each other in the sense they were not actually written to look at each other and see that. So if I take the logic that the promise of DLT is to work on the same database again, as a simplified picture. A shared database is super useful in many aspects, but it is less useful if the data standards are not the same. So there are many rows in the database, but everybody has their own standard of how to do that. That is a challenge. If there's information about players in the database, but in different countries they have different roles, there are different things that they're allowed to do, it makes it possible to use the database to link everything, but it makes it very difficult to put that together. So taking that, just that one is, if you really want to use it, it's not only that you have to work from this database, but actually the more you can harmonize, also something which we are working on since decades. But the more you harmonize, the better you can reap the benefits of this. So whether it's on legal issues, technical standards, and also business standards, so that is important. That's one point. That's on the general level.
But new technologies is also a good way to leverage and to be able to work again on harmonization, as we have already done with previous projects such as Target 2 securities. So it's also a good way to continue the work.
Maybe I can add something to the technical part of this. The 3 solutions that were tested in the trials, they are also all linked to the existing target system, which is an important fact about them. And if we're talking about maybe long-term idea of having 24/7 capital markets, trading, and also then the settlement of assets, that's an additional point that is more on a longer-term view that's not applicable right now.
But one question from my side, the trigger solution could also be the long-term solution, right?
I mean, I'm not from the German
Yes,
Bundesbank, so I can't comment on that.
You raised the fact, so that's my question, yeah.
So that's any of the 3 solutions might be. That is one of the points of how frictionless. Again, this idea of the common database. So how frictionless is this? Is the information flow? Mm-hmm. So I mean, our board member, Mr. Cipollone, put forward in the speech from last October the idea possibly of a shared ledger. In the same speech, he said that does not have to be the future because I mean there are also some. If you want to set up actually such a common such a shared ledger, I mean, you have to do it. Yeah, that's. But then you have to set up the governance and maintain it to be relevant. That's a challenge there. But the nice idea for that to picture this is you are on one platform, everything is seamless. So then there can be alternatives, and then how seamless can it be with alternatives? And if really the ecosystem was working on DLT and more broadly private sector, I mean also corporates, etc., if they do that, maybe then is the question: does the cash have to do there? The intuition would be that everything is then on chain. But does it have to be? I mean, that's something we have to see. So the tech stack, again, is not the question. I mean, that's probably one of the last questions we should answer, because then there's also more progress to see what is the best at the end. So it's the architecture, I think, around it.
Since you say all 3 solutions could be also the longer-term ones, Adeline, do you care to explain a little bit, the differences, let's say the key differences with the L3S platform versus Trigger? What are the differences in the approaches?
Yes, so to remember, to settle the securities and issued on DLTs during the exploratory work, we used 3 solutions. So one developed by the Bundesbank, one developed by the Banca d'Italia, and one developed by the Banque de France. So the Bundesbank and the Banca d'Italia developed 2 solutions for direct settlement in the current target services, so related to T2 and to TIPS. And at the Banque de France, we used the in-house DLT, so named DL3S. We have developed and continued a few years ago with our first experiments. And with this DLT, we directly issue tokens on DL3S representing central bank money. But of course, it's also related to our target services, as we need some cash we have in target services, in T2 in particular. We cannot be dogmatic, I think, regarding these 3 solutions. We need to analyze what would be the added value and how we could have seamless transactions with DLTs and with the current systems, as we will not have a big bank. Yes, we still need to analyze the 3 solutions. We cannot give a conclusion. It would be too early, and we need to continue.
Yeah, that's why we explore more. Johannes?
Thank you. Maybe add on why we ONB choose the DL3S system is because this is the system for cash on chain, because we are coming from the innovation side and we want to really testing something new and to find out the pro and cons. That's why it's the DL3S, because it's I think the only system with the cash on chain in comparison to the others. Whether it's better or not is another discussion, but for us, from the innovation point of view, is to find out what is the impact on our core business, settlement, DVP, and etc., with new technology, both sides on chain. And this is, from our point of view, why we chose that system.
Yeah, so I'm afraid that from the Euro system, we don't give you the scoop that actually we have a quarrel on who is best. No, but that is actually one of the points, I mean, that we were clear for us when we actually set this up. So we had the luxury of having 3 solutions to choose from and to see then the strength of what are, and actually try to measure then also differences. But it was not an issue of a beauty contest, which of the 3 scores better with some average scoring or so. So it was actually looking at what are the elements that are most useful, for example, for the market, for certain perspectives. So that's why we had actually, so everybody who participated had a whole list of KPIs to fill in on all of their work and to keep us updated on that. So that's what we actually then went through in order to assess. We also had actually, just weeks before the decision, we had also a session not only with our contact group, but we invited every participant in our trial, so all these 64 participants that came there and had run these, whether it's the 1.6 billion of securities that were issued, but also experiments for payments, smart derivative contracts, whatever, and asked for the feedback to understand what is important for them. And then now, also for our track 1, which is based on interoperability, it will, of course, make use of what is there. We are looking both what is useful for the market, and then there are other questions which are less visible to the outside of what does it take to put it in production? I mean, how does it fit, whether it's with the legal situation, the cybersecurity, and whatever else, that how easy is it to integrate something, be it the module, be it everything, or whatever. So those are the assessments that are being done. And that is, of course, now where there's question marks around this, which I can understand. But again, we actually felt that it was more important to announce to the market that we are going ahead rather than actually doing all of these assessments and coming up with a plan and announcing them, because that's taking a while. Yes.
You want to respond to everything early on and give the market also a chance to, keep working with you rather than each.
Yeah, and also knowing that they can prepare themselves, that actually there will be more on that there will be opportunities. So there were also quite some market participants, because the pace of our exploratory work was relatively high, because we didn't want to drag on, but we gave some months to come to actually, we actually had 2 waves so that we also could allow late starters getting in and had, I was already optimistic, but I think the participation was even higher than what I thought. But then still some tried and they just did not find the partner on time or the technical part, and also for the trials, some legal work took them more time. So there are also more who wanted to participate. And of course, they know they can prepare, so there will be cash on chain than there are also from the central bank. There will be work. There are opportunities to get the experience, to think about how do the business processes work, use that experience then to standardize so market participants can prepare for that, yes.
Adeline, I think you wanted to say something.
No, it's just to say that we will also analyze all the services we can offer around central bank money, of course collateral, but we need to go further. As Holger mentioned, we need to create an ecosystem around new technologies, and in particular in the geopolitical context. So it will be important, and we need to take time also in the urgency to analyze what could be all these services along the entire security chain, actually.
I think the securities chain is also something that is bound to change quite fundamentally with DLT, right? Because
Yes, in this case, the public-private partnership would be crucial, and how private actors could leverage on what the Eurosystem could develop.
And even just going on-chain would mean going 24/7, or would you keep current hours?
Well, it's also I mean, the one thing is that what is the end game? The other one is what are interim steps. I mean, now for the trials, we were clear that we went actually, we contained it to normal business days, because also that will then, I mean, has implications, say, on the cash side to the minimum reserve system, the operational framework. So all this can be adapted, and it's not just a DLT question. We also have instant payments that are running 24/7. So those are points that need to be looked at in any case, and they can be amended. But that is actually also very interesting also in the long run. What is the optimal? Is it optimal to have, I mean, the one thing is to have the same day, but is it instant, everything gross? Is there a case for having kind of, I don't know, hourly settlement cycles for, at least for some operations, etc.? Is that more efficient than the other one? I cannot tell you now. So I'm very curious for this, and that is something to work on with the market on this. So of course it sounds like a straightforward thing, everything immediately, but how do you do that? Does it work everywhere? Because as soon as you have pre-funding in there, it gets more difficult. If you just can transact what you have, and that's easy. But how do you make a market with that? All this, how to organize this. I mean, that is something, and that's something where the market has to come together and look at that, how that works.
I think that would be a question beyond a European market. It would be a question of a global market, because the point of having 24/7 is not necessarily to just cater to European hours, but to worldwide hours. Security settlement from Singapore to Frankfurt to New York. Overlapping hours are very limited. So I think in that respect, it maybe goes beyond just, like I say, Euro, but it is something perhaps we should look to in the longer term.
Maybe, but for the time now, I think T+1 is sufficient. From my point of view, I'm speaking from the business point of view, and we saw with the issue, the DLD bond, T+1 is possible, instant is also possible, and maybe we have the chance to free up capital, intraday capital. We have a better liquidity, governance, and also controlling. This is possible, but I think it's more for the second trail or track, so to have the 24/7, yes.
I mean, just from existing technology, an example. So that was a question also when instant payment, once it was actually, so it was enabled, not only that instant payment existed, but actually it became really a truly European, available to everybody in Europe who has a normal bank account. There was also the question, what will shops do? So it was quite interesting to see. At the very beginning, then many said, okay, no, we cannot even use it because we do the batch processing. At the end of the day, to process, more efficient for us. And yes, that will probably remains, because for years, everything has been built around that actually things are processed not immediately and gross, and that they also cannot see of how it's received. So you need to change much more in the background in order to make full use of it. So that is a lasting thing, and there will be some inertia in staying where we are. On the other side, that's where one has to quickly look into, will we go for that 24/7 when there are the opportunities? So maybe that's difficult to stop. But again, maybe one can organize it also in the way for some parts of the market or segments where this is more obvious, where there are specific needs. But that really remains to be seen for the longer run.
And as for the global picture, and we've touched upon today already, I think it's been mentioned in almost every panel so far, how do you see extraterritorial scope in the wholesale CBDC trial, your trials and experiments and further deployment?
Well, that basically is a question of central bank money, to whom is it made available? And that's a decision which is independent of the technology. So we have we are opening accounts for specific entities. Not obvious that I mean, that changes simply because of the technology. So currently you work then with some, I mean, and in any case, even domestically, not everybody has access. So you essentially it is financial institutions, in particular banks, who actually have that access. Not sure why that would need to change. So you would still need to, in that case, have a bank account if you're not from the euro area. You need to know somebody who has a bank account. I mean, who has a central bank money account there. But that's something which can develop. Rules on this are developing over time, but that is not the question just of the technology again.
Yes, I'm not sure we will change the policy access to central bank money, but we could work on a better combination to ensure better. For instance, we could work on modalities of access, and that's why we will work on this concept of shared ledger. It could be an opportunity to work on this combination and the better coexistence, as we cannot ignore. So the stablecoins, for instance. So it's also a call for us to work on this issue.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that is really an important point. I mean, that it's seamless. And then actually also, if that connection is then efficient, and we have to see, I mean, as head of innovation, I'm of course, I'm very curious of how this two-tier financial system will develop itself. But that is something where if that is seamless, then it doesn't also matter whether, I mean, so much whether you have the direct access or not, so as long as you can use the functions of this. So that's the point. We had, for example, we had a workshop, I think that's also on the internet there, on, it was on the business-to-business payments. And the travel industry globally is already on the DLT. So they do on their wholesale thing. So somebody needs flights, needs hotel rooms, etc. So they have a DLT network on this. So for them, it doesn't matter. I mean, they don't need central bank money as such, but they need something that the payment can be made internationally. And that does not mean that, some of these travel companies have this. But they can work with partners, with whatever allows that access, and then to use that. Whether it is private money in that case or central bank money is a thing, but it is that the ecosystem can serve those needs. And that is not always on central bank money itself. So that's where we come more from the wholesale side, but everything should be enabled. Otherwise, it's a bit short-sighted.
Thank you. We're coming towards the end, so in case anybody has questions, now would be the time. No one?
They are hungry.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say. We won't stand between you and lunch any longer then. Thank you so much, everybody, and I'll hand over.